Hello, excuse me. Wow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode 341 of Stu and the Nun. And good to see all of you here. I'm waiting for my guest to show up. We're trying to make some comms there, communications going. But in the meantime, we're going to open this up. I've been gone for a couple weeks, and I apologize for that. And if you can't tell, sinuses are just crazy here in upstate New York. And it has been, I don't know what's going on. We've been doing all kind of Allegra D's and everything like that, trying to clear this stuff up, but everyone's just being hit by this change of weather, going from 70s and 80s to 50s and 60s and jumping up and down. I got up this morning, it's 51 and it hit 74 today. So I think that's what's adding to it and everything. But anyways, that's just the way it is here. So if I sound a little rough or I sniffle or whatever, that's why. But hey, just the way it is. So it happens to everybody, but it could be worse. I want to welcome everyone. Sorry for being gone. I've been on the road the last 2 weeks and had been spent last weekend on a little gift trip to my wife. Went to New York City and saw some shows, did some stuff. Saw my one son who's in college out in that way, and had a good weekend there. Get away. Haven't been to the city for a while. Not the greatest place, at least not as great as it used to be, but it wasn't too terribly bad. But it was something you always definitely gotta you always gotta keep your head on a swivel, as they say, when you get there. The weekend before that, I was visiting grandbabies. So priorities in life, it's all about family, that's for sure. And had to see them grandbabies while I can. They get big so fast. So been on the road for a couple weeks, haven't been able to make it here, so I apologize for that. But hey, there's been no shortage of opinion and pontification by people who some much smarter than me and some probably not, from what I've heard, talking about all the things that are ongoing and going on. We're going to cover a couple topics tonight. Before we do, I want a big shout out to our sponsors. Alpha Elite Performance, great makers. In fact, I got to get a new order in at Alpha Elite. I'm getting low on my pre-workout. Travis, got to get Travis back on here, and excuse me, got to get them in. And Gear for Grunts. Speaking of which, seeing Doug pop in the chat. Gear for Grunts. Always check them out for your tactical needs. In today's time in the world, it's probably not a bad idea to have a couple ramp devices in your collection, if you would. Also, boohammer.com and what used to be known as Red Rum Sport Fishing. My boy Toby hasn't gotten me new logos and graphics yet. Now called Marvita Sport Fishing and the Porch Bar and Restaurant there in Cabo San Lucas. Toby's mainstay, his business, and big shout out to him celebrating his anniversary today. So I wasn't even going to bother him with trying to come on tonight since it is his anniversary. But so Toby's down there running Marvita. Check it out, Cabo San Lucas. Hope to get new logos and graphics on here soon for them. So anyways, so if you get down there, give a shout out to Toby, mention Stu and the Nun. You'll get his attention. I'm sure he'll hook you up and give you a deal. I didn't even check with them on that, but I'm just going to put that out there. Anyways, he would love to talk to fans and viewers all the time. So he would love to, I know he would put you on the big fish. Anyways, with that out of the way, still wondering where Paul is. Don't know. We're working. I've got people helping out trying to get him. But with that, we're going to get into a couple of topics. Trying to think of where I want to go first. Well, I think I want to start with the strike first because I think that may be the quickest one to happen. I guess overall right now we've got a lot of catastrophes or major events happening right now for this administration and for this country. Even though I'm not sure this administration knows or cares, because I'm not sure who's running the country. I saw sometime acting President Biden go down check the storm damage, and VP Harris running for president with her little VP jacket on down there talking to people too. But the White House, since Biden has bowed out and handed it over to Harris, and the illegal appointment of her as the Democratic nominee has largely been absent or vacant. much like what I think is in Biden's head. But not really sure who's. I guess we don't know who's been running the country the last 3.5 years, but no one seems to be running it now because we've got this port strike. We've got, of course, what's been going on in Israel. This horrible, most deadly hurricane ever to hit this country. Helene. We're going to talk about all those things. But the strike, I guess, just moments ago, maybe half hour ago, the union and strikers have said that they are going to suspend the port strike. I think to mid-January, to give time to work out a deal. So they've reached a tentative deal. I'm sure these are hardworking folks. There's no doubt they are. I don't know what the I'm not sure I know anyone that is a dock worker or anything like that. What I did hear was their average salary or pay is about $65 an hour, and it looks like what they wanted was a 75% increase. That's a pretty good bump. And anyone's, I don't know what that math is. I don't know if we have Rob, the unpaid producer, on, but 75% bump on a $65, and that's an average 65. So probably foremen, managers, supervisors were way above that. That's what they wanted, and no automation. They wanted no automation, no robots loading and unloading ships and stuff. But looks like they reached a deal for the next 90 days. They got a conditional offer of 62% wage increase. 62%. What that is on top of the average of 65 an hour is not too bad. But they're all going to get back to work, and they're going to get a good, nice little bump. And I guess for the next 90 days, which is pretty important. A lot of stuff comes in overseas for Christmas and all that stuff. Obviously, the stores don't wait to this, Black Friday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving to stock that. All that stuff is shipped in now, right? September, October, it's all being shipped in to pre-position to stock the stores for Christmas shopping and everything else. So I'm sure this was there was a lot of pressure on the union or on the docks to meet those agreements, because it would make a pretty good significant. So it looks like they've ended that. They will extend until January 15th before they strike again, which I think is Martin Luther King Day, if I remember right. And they will get back to work right away and start grabbing containers off those ships and so on and so forth. So that's kind of an easy one to hit first. I was going to dive more into that until that happened. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know about you guys. I'm watching the chat too, but funny. Doug said they must have received word the strike was hurting the Dems. They could very well be. Unions love the Democrats for the most part. That's pretty much always been the case. They could have put pressure on them, like, hey, when people. I heard they're making runs on toilet paper in places, which is funny because I heard most toilet paper is actually made in the U.S. that we purchase. But friends of mine in South Carolina and the Southeast were telling me that they were making runs on paper towels, toilet paper, all that stuff like it was 2020 again. So, I guess it probably would not look good with everything else going on to start running out of the basic staples. Which, what I was hearing would be a lot of vegetables, bananas, fruits and vegetables that are grown outside the U.S. And booze, even though to me, all the best booze is made in the U.S., mostly in the Kentucky area. So I'm not sure. I guess probably vodka and things like that. Best vodka is probably Tito's, made in Austin, Texas. So the bottom line is you don't care about ports and docks if you get all your materials and all your product from within the U.S. We don't need to have it shipped in. So that's that's one thing to think about. I thought we learned that lesson from 2020 when we had to go to outside in the supply chain and we couldn't get our mask and couldn't get all the PPE and all that stuff in because we were buying it all from China. How convenient. I thought the country woke up a little bit and decided maybe we should start making the essentials here in the U.S. Maybe that's why the toilet paper is made here. I guess they just need to tell everyone that they don't need to run to Costco and wipe it out like they're doing in Texas and South Carolina. That there's plenty there for everyone. And you know what? You may not get your favorite, but you'll find it. And there's someone that hunts a lot and is out in the woods, and there's a lot of options you got there. That's all I'm going to say. So, yes, Mom, Delta Dirt, great vodka, made right in the great state of Arkansas. Don't even need that Russian stuff. That's right. So, there you go. But so the strike is over now. Dock workers are going back. I'm sure the Dems are very happy. The Dems are very happy that that's one thing they don't have to get beat up on. They got enough else going on. You got, Iran attacking Israel. You got a major part of our southeast United States are completely just obliterated. People are missing the most basic of necessities and not getting help. And you had a debate the other night that did not look too good for the Democrats. Now, I don't know about you, but they always say that the VP debate's like the least watched and not that important. It doesn't impact. I'm not sure that's the case. I know I keep hearing that repeated, but I also am very suspicious. I think why you're hearing that repeated is from the side that did not have a great performance that night, and they're just trying to downplay it, much like they tried to downplay how the Tim Walz was going to perform right before that. They were saying he's not a great debater, he's not very articulate and all that kind of stuff. They were really trying to lower the bar, which was surprising because even though he was once an assistant volunteer football coach before he was fired for getting a DUI, and he was a master sergeant in the National Guard, he was a governor, and and I guess still is right now, and was a congressman. So obviously he's run for political office, and he's campaigned, and he's been in debates, and he's given speeches. So I thought that was very interesting. They acted like he was fresh off the block and had never done this kind of thing before, and we're trying to lower that bar. Well, he didn't do that well. Was very impressed in how J.D. Vance conducted himself. Looked very presidential. Now I don't remember ever seeing him take a note, look down, or anything where it seemed like Walz was trying to write a 10-page essay paper for his fourth grade class or something. He was just nonstop writing, taking notes, staring over at J.D. Vance. J.D. looked at him some, mostly just looked at the camera, was looking at the American people, and really, really performed very. I mean, it was a very cordial debate for young people that have not really seen the political process prior to the last 8 years. That's the way debates used to be in 70s, 80s, even early 90s, right? Sometimes they would say they agree with each other. They would shake hands. They would, say, they would be cordial and have civility. We've kind of been missing that for the last 8 to 12 years. So it was funny that that people were just like, oh, how nice and cordial and civil, and wow, they were so kind, and they agreed on so many things. That's kind of how they used to be, right? There's only so many ways to skin a cat, and whether you're left or right, for the most part, solving certain things like border security or economy or infrastructure, there's only so many ways to do it. There may be different approaches to get there, but at the end of the day, there's only so many ways to do it. Of course, now that things are so jaded and polarized, let's take border security. There's the way of opening it up and letting everyone in, and there's a way of building a wall. And but of course now the left is turning back around and projecting that Kamala Harris is now tough on the border. Interestingly enough, she shoots commercials about that with Trump's wall in the background. But anyways, I mean, now they're trying to do that because they realize the whole open border thing is not really that popular as they watch these polls. But it was a good debate. J.D. Vance was the yin to Trump's yang. I mean, he was very articulate, very professional, very courteous, civil, tactful, you name it, but also didn't put up with anything and didn't get rolled over. Like when he decided to fact check the fact checkers, and even came out after and produced evidence the next day on some of the things he said. Did a superb job. So, I think President Trump picked a good VP, because obviously President Trump can only run for 4 more years, and whoever he picked is who he would be putting up. Who would, I'm sure the RNC would be putting up as the candidate in 2028. So, 8 years of a guy. He's 40 years old now, combat vet, has a wonderful life story, rags to riches, if you would, American dream kind of story. That's, in a book and a movie. He'd be 44 if he ran for president in 2028. Very young for a president, and not the youngest, but very young for a president, especially what we've had over the last couple presidents. He would he'd be a great run for another 8 years after. So I think he made a very good pick with JD Vance, because that dude knows how to talk, knows how to banter, but banter with civility. So, yeah, I think the Dems needed after that one. I mean, you could watch all the stuff afterwards. It was pretty clear that they thought they didn't do that well. And that with the strike and the storm and everything, they need something to bail them out. So the strike is probably it. That is for sure. My mom's saying JD for president. Well, like I say, maybe in 4 years, who knows what he'll be doing. But I mean, I'll be honest. My opinion, I could have been voting for him for president that night. On the night, I mean, I looked at him like, this dude could be running now as on the top of the ticket, and I think he would be doing very well. But yeah, so we got that going. The strike's done. Talked about the VP debate. I don't know if anyone wants to call in or has a comment or whatever. You can type it in the chat. If you want to join me on air, you can let me know in the chat. I will send you a link, and you can jump on and ask your question or give me your opinion or whatever, and tell me what you think. But did you think JD did as good as I said he did? Do you think Waltz did worse, better, or what was expected? Like I say, you can also type it in the chat, and most everyone's on Facebook. There's a few others, but if you want to do that, go ahead. And we go on to the next one. Obviously, I think a lot is about this storm that has hit this country, and man, it just rips your heart out. That's for sure. To see the dam, it was so amazing, right? We were so worried about Florida. We were so worried about Florida that we didn't, everyone just kind of thought, okay, it's going to hit the Big Bend. It's going to miss Tampa, 20-foot storm surge. And I think it goes to show, much like Katrina, everyone thought, because of course, Katrina, when it hit, was bad, without a doubt, not taking anything from it. But it wasn't the Katrina hit that did so much damage in New Orleans. It was the amount of rain overloading the levees, and then the levees, having to, starting to give way, and all the water just running into the bowl of New Orleans. It was the rain afterwards that really did it in, more so than the winds and the storm surges and stuff. Granted, they weren't great. But with this one, storm coming, I saw interviews where people were like, they were in North Carolina that used to live in Florida, and said, we moved out of Florida to get away from the storms. We thought this was safe enough. And obviously Western North Carolina, not near the coast. It's normally where you think on the North Coast, on the North Carolina, coast on the Atlantic, and South Carolina, that area, that would be, the threat area. That if you go inland, you'll get some wind and rain, but that's it. But I'm sure if you've seen the video and the footage that I've from caskets floating down a river to complete mountainsides giving way, the stories of bodies still stacked up of a couple of days ago from a semi-personal connection that drove through there, that they were still stacked up as Monday afternoon on the side of the road. No one is coming to get them yet. And people they're out without food, water, everything, right? There's nothing that they have zero, nothing. They have no internet, no connectivity or anything. I've been in some storm areas afterwards that were nowhere near the devastation of this. And even those look like the hand of God had come down and just wiped it across the earth. And I mean, they're not even in the same ballpark or the parking lot of the ballpark as this storm is. And I can tell you from the ones I have seen and been around, getting seeing pictures of it and seeing video of it, no way does it justice. It just absolutely does not. It's not even close to give you an idea between just the scope of it and just, what is it, the impact of it, and just to see the amount of damage, power lines everywhere, trees gone. You think of some of these towns like Chimney Rock and some of these places, complete towns that are gone, that no longer exist, businesses, homes, everything, all their memories, all that stuff. It's hard to imagine unless you've seen it and been through it. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, these people still they got to make money. They got refrigerators, everything's ruined. If they even have a house still, everything's gone. All their money, all their memories, all their investments. Insurance isn't going to be overnight. They got to get there. Guess what? The insurance adjusters' houses are probably gone too. They're usually people in the local area, unless they can bring in other ones. It's heart and prayers really go out to them, and that definitely isn't enough. Luckily, there is a number of good organizations out there, personal, nonprofits, Samaritan's Purse, 8 Days of Hope, Cajun Navy, just a ton, the Red Cross, that are just doing, as much as they can, hopefully. I mean, can't count on the government. But it was crazy because, as mentioned in the chat by Charles, I mean, they knew the storm was coming. They gave evacuation orders and granted, they didn't know, they knew it was going to head up to North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama area, that, roughly around that area. But it wasn't like this. They didn't know the storm wasn't coming, and we have good enough technology. They know where it's going to what weather fronts are going to push it or make it stall or do whatever. But, they prepared Florida well. They got it evacuated, but there was no thought or process. I mean, Atlanta had its first ever flash flood warning. That should have been a sign right there. It was already over, saturating Atlanta. And then he gets up there and just, gets in those mountains and hills of Western North Carolina, right along the Smokies there. And just that amount of water, coming down with gravity on top of the water, it's already, falling in the lower basins, valleys and stuff like that, and streams. It was just, there was no way they could recover from it. And, hit a little bit of Tennessee too, Eastern Tennessee, but nothing like it did Western North Carolina and some of the other areas. There's definitely other areas hit, but say, no staging of supplies, no dropping of lakes or reservoirs, nothing, no FEMA. But hey, maybe the administration, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but maybe the administration was more focused on people where it felt it had voters than people it knew it wasn't going to get. I don't know. They needed a sergeant major there. That's what they needed. They needed you there, sergeant major. They needed you there planning, because they have a whole bunch of planners and not a whole bunch of doers. And but you do have some people that are out there now flying their personal helicopters, on their boats, doing things, driving up and down, rescuing them, even though FEMA's after them. And FEMA's threatening arresting people flying their own helicopters and flying their own drones when they're the ones out there doing it. People are always going to help people faster and better than the federal government's ever going to do. I mean, they're opening up $750 amounts from FEMA to go to people. They got to submit online, electronically. Keep in mind, there's no internet in most of these areas. There's no phones, there's no electricity. So they got to file to get $750 deposited in their account in 10 days. In 10 days. It's been a week today from the storm hitting, and we went 215 people today. They started getting those bodies, I'm assuming today, that were stacked up just 2-3 days ago. And now they're going to, so we're 7 days in, and they're going to wait another 10 days on top of this. 17 days after, they're going to get $750. Granted, every dollar helps. It's going to get direct deposited into their bank accounts. Hopefully they have power in 10 days so the banks can run and people can draw money out, and they can get communications, and their employees can show up, and that can leave their homes, because guess what? All those people live in that same area. So in 10 days, they'll be able to go to the bank, hopefully have power, hopefully have internet, and a lot of hoping there. And, we said in the Army, we always would say hope is not a method. And, but there's a lot there because there's not much else you have. So they get out there and maybe get their stuff, and get $750, which would pay for some things, especially people working paycheck to paycheck now don't have a job at all. Don't trust me, I'm not going to discount it, but I don't know. Somebody want to tell me how much we've given Ukraine? Don't even have to say from the start. Let's just say this year, right? How much we have given to Israel. Let's talk about how much we're spending on every illegal alien that comes into this country, in phone cards, hotels, food, everything else that's being provided. And we're going to give law-abiding, voting, red-blooded, hardworking Americans $750 in 10 days in their bank account in an area that has wiped out no infrastructure at all. Yeah, Sandy, you're right. The government will probably require them to pay taxes on that $750. Actually, I don't think they do. We've gotten FEMA assistance before up here when we've had bad storms. I don't think they do, but it wouldn't be surprising me, because what I did hear is that the couple of guys that just got released from Russia, we just had the big prisoner swap. We got the journalist and those folks out. The IRS is coming after them with fines because they didn't pay their taxes while they were in Russian prison. So I'll just let you marinate on that one a little bit. These were Americans essentially kidnapped, held hostage by a hostile foreign nation, kept in a prison, and now the IRS is fining them for not getting their taxes filed and paid while they were in prison. So I could say that it wouldn't be out of reality to say that you'll get taxed for that $750 by federal or state. Probably not the state, probably would be the feds, but could happen. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. It's up late last night. So we'll have to see. I don't know what to say. It is just, obviously we don't want people going down there looking to get the experience of what it's like to be in a storm. Just know, unless you've been to something, and I don't mean combat, I mean like something of this magnitude where your everything, your whole world, your livelihood, your family's livelihood, everything you've worked hard to build and acquire and everything is stripped away from you. And some people probably the clothes stripped off their back, and you don't know how you're going to eat today or tomorrow, what you're going to do, where to go, just if you take some time and think about that, how would you rebuild? Where are you going to go? Are you going to stay there? What about all your loved ones and friends that are missing? How are you going to make money? When do your kids go back to school? How are your kids going to, deal with this, mentally and traumatically? They're going to probably have lost friends and relatives and that kind of stuff. I could keep going for the whole rest of the time of just all the things, many of which these things probably, they haven't even occurred to the people, because right now they're focused on the basic number one thing, which is surviving. All that other stuff is I'm able to do comfortably from my studio office, because I can sit back and I'm not impacted directly by what's happening to them right now. So they probably can't even look that far. Right now, they're focusing on the 5-meter target. They're focusing on what's right in front of their head or face. And that is like, we're hungry. My kids are hungry. I don't know where we're going to sleep. We're cold. We're wet. We're whatever. So it's just continue as you fall to your knees with prayer and you go to church on this Sunday, and or if you don't and you still just um, keep them in your thoughts and minds. Make sure if you want to donate, which is a very, very legitimate thing to do, do it to valid organizations, either some of these ones like Samaritan's Purse and stuff that we know are good, or the Red Cross. I'm sure a lot of churches will be taking up donations too, specifically for this, because we're all Americans, and this could happen to any of us. I mean, hell, look what happened in the blizzard of 22 here in Western New York. 54, I think was the last count. People died. I mean, it was absolutely horrendous that happened here. Still terrible for here. A lot of snow, cold, whatever. Yeah, it was absolutely terrible, and really terrible for the loved ones and friends of those 54 people. But it happens down there. It happens in earthquakes out west. Tornadoes down the southeast. This is what Mother Nature deals us, and life seems unfair. But if you could do nothing else, if you can't give $1 to, at least you could fall on your knees and talk to God and ask Him to spare life, wrap His arms around them, and maybe use this event as a way for people to focus on Him and realize the goodness and the grace that He brings. Well, I think I hit that one pretty good. And it looks like I have my guest coming on. I see him getting in position. Oh, he's looking very patriotic. So I would like to invite past guests, and man, I've done in-person interviews with him and online. You know him as the Motley Patriot, Mr. Paul. I don't know what he wants. All goes by. The Christmas elf. I don't know a ton, but welcome to the show, Mr. Motley Patriot. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. It was kind of sorry for the delay dropping in. I basically had to patch up. We're running through a high def camera and going through Black ATM Mini Pro and all that stuff. I've been working on upping my video game. I just did. You remember Cameron?
Mm-hmm.
I just did. He was a guest for Fox Now and Then, talking about some of the military options in Israel, and sort of bringing in some of his 60,000 foot view on what Israel's up against, and more specifically what the guy we used to have pages are up against. Not so good for them now. But yeah, been really busy. Just went to an event yesterday where we had Derek Anderson and Eugene Vindeman at Mary Washington University.
Yeah, so let me kind of educate some of our people, kind of some of the names you said. So Cameron Hamilton, obviously you've had on there a few times. He was running against Anderson, I believe, right, for the 7th district. They were in the primary against each other, and unfortunately Cameron lost. So Derek Anderson is the Republican candidate for 7th district of Virginia for Congress. Vindman should be a familiar name to many. He is the former, I guess he was a lieutenant colonel.
Well, there's a question about what his real rank is.
Yeah,
he won't release his records.
Yeah, he was an officer working in the White House. And he was, as happens when presidents talk on the phone and stuff, there's a number of intelligence agency people and folks listening in on the calls, probably on both sides. I'm sure the other side does it, whoever the president's talking to. And this guy heard something, and he was the whistleblower. I use those terms, loosely, if you will, the guy who came out and kind of caused the second attempt at impeaching President Trump with the whole thing with the Ukraine quid pro quo stuff. So now he is running. He got out of the military. I'm assuming he retired, and he is now running for that 7th district as a Democrat candidate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he's got a number of nicknames in some of my circles. He's kind of referred to as Chow Thief, and that's a long.
Was Chow Thief his twin brother? So there's two Vindemans. Yes, there's twins.
Yeah.
And I always sort of dug into that Chow Thief was the other brother who testified, and Eugene was the guy that kind of laid in the background, who was, I guess, an attorney who prosecuted soldiers. In fact, I think Cameron's organization beat him in court for the unconstitutional mandates.
Wow.
Vindeman had done, as I'm told, Vindeman had kind of been pretty happy about prosecuting soldiers who objected to an illegal order, as some have framed. It's a long conversation. There's a lot of perspectives on it. But the guy Vindeman's not your friend. He's the guy that likes to go out and punish people that don't fall in line, whether it's a legal order or not, some would argue.
By the way,
his brother is the one who testified on the Hill.
Yeah, I would say your video is actually rock solid too. By the way, your investments into your AV equipment there is paying off. That is definitely, man. That is definitely. I mean, you're still ugly. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't make you look any better.
You can polish a turd, and it's a little easier to swallow. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, I always say put sprinkles on it, call it ice cream, but you turn it over.
There you go. Well, now that's a Democrat strategy, but that's just me.
Yeah, but no, I just say video is looking sharp. But yeah,
thank you, brother.
So you've been very involved in that down there. You're very involved in the 7th congressional district area, Orange County, all that area of Virginia. I did watch the video of you yesterday. You were expressing your First Amendment rights and part of the civil due process of
public square,
a citizen out there talking to people. We weren't able to play it. If I could get a link, I could put it up in the chat. But
I'd appreciate that. It's on X. If you want to avoid the YouTube thing, it's on X. It's trending on YouTube. You go to the Motley Patriot on YouTube. It's easy enough. It just says Democrats and Republicans spirited conversations.
Yeah, I'm going to grab it right now while you kind of go into and talk about kind of what happened and kind of what you took away from that engagement, because you talked to people from all sides. And
absolutely.
And it seemed like what I watched, you were pretty civil. I mean, yes, people got loud because people are passionate, but it seemed like it still stayed civil. Just how was that experience? And what did you come away from that with, any eye-opening epiphanies or lessons learned or just something you didn't know after that?
So I would make the argument that I went loaded for bear in terms of, because whenever you get into a political gathering on those two sides, for all I know, Antifa's there and they're going to, throw frozen water bottles at me. Going forward, you just don't know how quick these things turn into something. And I was just walking with my camera basically down the gauntlet and didn't go there to sort of confront. I was just sort of walking down the row of all the signs and just doing some lighthearted commentary. And it very quickly, because I guess if I had the Trump hat on, we had a few triggered folks out there, but I didn't go into it confrontational. I was just sort of tongue in cheek, if you will. And I'm walking down, I see some people, and I do point out that Vindman is a naturalized American citizen, not an actual citizen that was born in this country. I would make the argument that that having someone from Ukraine who is a Democrat monitoring the president, negotiating as the chief executive with a leader from another country, I thought it was bad form. I think a good aggressive lawyer could put him in Leavenworth for that, because he's not advocating for America's best interest. He's really advocating for status quo in Ukraine. And of course, a lot of things have come out afterwards. If you take a step back into Biden, Burisma, the Standard line as well, nobody's really been prosecuted. Well, the quid pro quo was more on Biden. And if you've watched a lot of the podcasts with Sean Ryan, with a lot of the security experts, a lot of them are talking about how, there's a little bit more going on with how that entire thing played out. That essentially everyone was gunning for Trump. They said they were going to impeach him from the very beginning. And I would make the argument that the president of the United States is our chief negotiator. When you have two Ukrainians that were born in Ukraine that become naturalized citizens, and they're listening to our president negotiating with a leader from another country to ask in good faith for a little bit more due diligence on corruption in Ukraine doesn't seem like a really bad sort of request. I want to know what's going on there, and it got down to, I guess, if I recall, about firing or not firing a specific investigator. When you go back to under Biden, you've seen the Biden tapes, I'm sure. And what do you know? You remember the Biden statement?
Yeah, he told me, if you don't fire that guy, I'm going to make a phone call and you're not getting your $6 billion or whatever it was. And
right.
$1 billion.
So he held back money, at least not literally, but from the spirit of negotiations. And if you've got half a brain, you know that negotiations, there's a lot of false vibrato in negotiations. Negotiations are not always this literal step-by-step, you do this, you do that. There's a lot of puffery. Anyone that's ever been in sales, there's a lot of times, you want to make people sweat a little bit. I mean, you could go to standard interrogation tactics with the Credit Investigation Authority. Anyway, long story short. So if the president is being second guessed by individuals born in Ukraine who are listening to the president, who are aligned with the Democrats, who are gunning for the president, I look at this, and this is why I went to this event yesterday. I look at this and I go, wait a minute. In Virginia 7th District, we're getting the twin, I guess he's the twin brother, but we're getting another Ukrainian who's completely aligned with Ukraine from his birth. I don't know if he's, what his position is on Ukraine, but to me, and this is the one thing that I did sort of point out at the event last night, was that, hey, this guy wasn't born in Virginia. And if you look at the video, you'll see that's kind of the theme. I'm like, hey, I hope you guys know that this Eugene Vindman guy, he's not all roses and sugar pops.
Right.
That this guy's an operator.
Right.
His brother was an operator. They're Democrat operatives, are deeply aligned with the Democrat Party. They're deeply funded by the Democrat Party. And even Vindman goes on as to brag about all the money that he got. And it's on, if you go to the Derek Anderson website, there's a lot of clips from yesterday. And by the way, this is his first debate, I guess, of substance at Mary Washington. I challenge anybody to go to that video and do a drinking game called the abortion drinking game, because Vindman said the word abortion so many times. If you took a shot every time he said abortion, you would probably be called off in an ambulance for alcohol poisoning.
That's the push Democratic talking
point? That's the whole thing that they're doing. This is it.
That's all they got, which is what got them through the midterms, right? That's
that and MAGA extremism and January 6th. So I'm sitting in the front row after I get through the Democrat gauntlet, and you'll see I cover my bases on that because, and as I was going to say earlier before I sort of merged off into the bushes, I'm engaged on social media a lot. I'm used to pushing back to Democrats on social media and not getting in trouble for the automated AI filter. So I know how to sort of push back pretty hard without using phrases and terms that might be, bad choice of words or bad style of argument, but to push back. And a lot of times, if you keep pushing them on their narratives, they get the deer in the headlights, and they can't run away because we're right here eye to eye. So I'm used to pushing back pretty hard from being a Trump guy since 2015 and being an Obama guy twice. I say that on the tape, and they use a lot, the Democrats, and you'll see this on the video, their go-to is to name call. Oh, you're just Putin's boyfriend. I say, well, wait a minute, we're talking policy here. Where was Vindman born? Oh, what does that have to do with? Well, I'm just asking, where was he born? I mean, where was Vladimir Putin born? How far from Ukraine was he born? Was he born in the Donbass region? I don't know. But you've got Russian or people that were born in Russia or previous satellites of Russia that are going to represent us in 7th District, while these people tell us that the other Russian guy is bad. So which Russian? Which person in that Slavic region of the planet are you going to pick and choose? And so there's this sort of false narrative that they've just picked this guy and demonized him, and they try to do the same to you as an individual. So you just keep pushing back, and they can't run away, and they can't X out their browser because we're eye to eye, mano a mano. And it was healthy. And I spoke to some people that I think are pretty serious operators within the Democratic Party. You had some heavy Democrat campaign managers over there. Over there. Oh, there it is. Is that the YouTube link?
Yeah, I put it up there. I've got it going.
You the man. You the man. This is a blood sport election in 7th. And you can make the argument that there's probably, and I've said this, it's on the tape. I said there's probably not a lot of daylight between Vindman and Anderson in terms of general foreign policy. You know, I remember at one of the events that Anderson had said, you know, he's good with, you know, increasing powers under the Patriot Act. So there's that. Whereas Cameron is a little bit more, hey, we really got to kind of, there were a lot of violations under the FISA Act, illegal searches. And so, you know, if you're a little bit more libertarian, you're like, you know, I like to see a little more brakes on government. So that's kind of the situation there. But with Vindman, I think it's going to be one of those situations once he gets elected that he's going to roll up shop and go home. And we're not going to have representation in 7th because we're primarily rural region of Virginia.
Yeah, you don't think if he wins, he's not going to really be caring about the constituents and representing what's best for that area.
He'll do window dressing on it, just like Abigail Spanberger does. They're like, oh, Abigail Spanberger reaches across the aisle, and then you go to her voting record, she's 100% with Nancy Pelosi. How is that going to be reaching across the aisle? How could I vote 100% with Nancy Pelosi and be bipartisan?
Right. Yeah, I noticed on the video you were talking to that one tall gentleman, and you know, you asked, you know, you told him, I've been to Mar-a-Lago. Have you been to Mar-a-Lago and that kind of stuff? Do you think he believed? I mean, did you talk? Was there more after the video?
Oh yeah, we talked and I gave his wife a hug later. That was the gal that was the first one that kind of tried to jump on my head like a honey badger, but push back. But you know, it became civil, and even one of your other associates had said it's kind of nice about 8 minutes and change in. You guys are civil, but some other people are like, they're just trying to defang you because you're a little too adept at sort of getting all the other unstables triggered, which has them in their worst behavior. So this guy's a little more work to work. So they put somebody on me to sort of decompress the whole thing. And the conversation got much more civil, and we spoke inside earlier on. But Democrats are playing 3D chess in politics right now. Everything matters. Every opportunity. They're smart. They're smart. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of brain power that works the Democrat Party. And even on our local election, we had a lot of large donors in local races for board of supervisors. And the amount of money that's gone into Vindman, I watch the Vindman ads I get them on YouTube. They're coming at me. I watch Sean Ryan. I get back-to-back Vindman ads. You got the two veterans. Well, I heard about this. You know, they're pretending like Vindman's a great thing. There's no real conversation. It's just a couple of guys with veteran hats on trying to push the vet vote. Oh, he left his country and came to fight for America. And impeach Donald Trump. You probably want to finish the sentence.
Yeah, I don't know how much fighting he did, but yeah. So
well, he fought. Well, his brother fought to get to the chow line,
right?
Exactly. And he, I get a bad feeling about both of them.
How does it look down there in the 7th? And I mean, every seat counts, right? So I know we're talking about Virginia 7 for our listeners and viewers, but we talked about this in the last election, if not the last couple, right? And we saw this definitely in 2020 that most people just pay attention to the national election, but in reality, it's the downstate ballots that matter, right? Because it was those judges, and folks that were the ones changing election laws at the last minute, the 11th hour.
They're doing it now.
Yeah, it's those prosecutors who are in the pocket of George Soros or his son that are, you know, not prosecuting and doing bail reform. And so, you know, the downstate ones matter, every single one. And honestly, you know, if there's going to be change, if Congress is actually going to do what they're paid to do this time, now that we're getting like a new breed of Congress on both sides, left and right, the established, Dems and Republicans are getting smaller in numbers. There's got to be enough of a majority. This 1 or 2 seat difference is not enough to put across real laws or stop bad laws from being put into place. So I just want to put that out there for those that are watching. Going, okay, why are we talking about Virginia 7? Every single seat counts, even if it's not in your area, because of just how they vote. I think that's something, Paul, that people miss. They think, oh, I'm in the New York 26th, or I'm in the Virginia 7th, or the Pennsylvania 14th, or whatever. I don't care about that other stuff. That's not my rep. But at the end of the day, your elected representative is up there wheeling and dealing with those other ones. And sadly, Congress in the last 16 to 20 years no longer has become, really since 2008, is no longer a checks and balance for the other, branches, especially the executive branch of government. And they go right along with what they're told to do. So how does it look? Does Anderson look like he have a good chance? How the pollings, how do they look? Is that going to stay red, or is it going to go blue?
So some make the argument that, and I've talked to other people that have ran in campaigns, and I've asked them, how did you get elected? And the thing is, I knocked on every door. I shook every hand. I made contact with person to person. Now with advertising and this constant barrage of YouTube advertising, social media advertising, it used to be if you did the hard work of campaigning, you could get the prize. And right now, I believe that I've got to give Derek Anderson credit for working hard. He's every day they're working a lot, and they're doing conventional, working the base, shaking hands, convincing people one at a time. Here's where I come from. The dilemma now is, and it's sort of kind of pushes this into a question mark, is that what motivates them to get out there to vote? And I've heard different numbers about the turnout not being highly motivated. I will put a caveat in there, is that I am starting to see more young people involved in politics, and not just the Democrat, sort of far left side of politics. The conservative party of Mary Washington disappeared. The students, conservative Republicans of Mary Washington, disappeared right around COVID. Some sort of tragedy. I don't know what it was. But last night at Mary Washington, saw a lot of young people involved. And they're talking about bringing back the conservative or Republican committee. And I don't know if that's the correct name. Anyway, it's an organization for students that are conservative or Republican at Mary Washington University. So there's a Facebook site up for that now that nobody manages. It's just left over from back in 2018 and around that area. So my answer to you is, if we get a lot of young voters out, because if you look at the polls, I've been following those, you're getting a lot of movement with younger voters toward Donald Trump. And if you've seen some of the ads from Rand Paul, his whole statement, his argument is that the down ballot voting is affected by the primaries up top. That the more winning you get, like in a Trump, the more winning you'll see in the Republicans down ballot. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, we see that now when they'll go back and analyze an election and say, oh, Trump won this county or district or whatever, or this state, but they elected a Democrat, right, as a governor or something, or their representative, right? Well,
who's motivated? Uh-oh. I'm by myself. Welcome to the Motley Patriot channel, where we can say whatever we want, if only for a few minutes.
I just fell out there. I was just talking away.
That's okay. I took over your show and said a whole bunch of crazy things. We renamed it the Motley Patriot Moment.
I would expect nothing less. Yes.
Hey, can I show you a picture?
Yeah.
So this is a picture I have. I kind of like this. I don't know if that'll refresh right. So that's a picture of Vlad the Impaler. They know him as Dracula, and the Venman brothers. And I make the argument that both of those Vindman brothers are going to suck Virginia dry, just like Vlad the Impaler would suck the blood out of you. How's that for a mean statement?
That's a nice analogy right there. Yeah, good.
I think that's kind of what's going on. There's such, you mentioned Soros, and now it's Soros' son. I pull back from a lot of that framing because in America, I think it's more about the individual. The sum of the total is greater than the total of the sum. And if we all work individually, did I get that right?
I think so. It confused me for a second, but I think you got it right. It's
kind of like the Hobbit thing. Anyway, individually, we have a lot of power to influence in ways that we will never see. I can make one person smile. They might go home and make their wife smile. We don't know.
Wow. Okay.
And you don't have to see it. You just know that you approach it from the right spirit and you love this country and you're willing to go to the mat just like you would for your kids. Right now, I feel like America, honestly, it's like our little kid keeps getting bullied in the playground. And politically, there's a lot of bullies. The funny thing is, these bullies are teachers' pets. So they've got carte blanche to do whatever they want. And when you talk about the prosecutors and all that, there's a culture. And Vindman's running on this very specific, stop the MAGA extremists. So let's unpack that for a second. Just at face value, words spoken. Stop the Make America Great Again extremists. Just on the content of that word. We don't want these people that really are focused on making America great again.
Yeah.
So where in just the content of those words is the problem? And the answer is, well, we don't want a collective body of Americans to be able to influence political outcomes for the betterment of their community, their church, their children. Right now so I saw something that popped up today, and this is a perfect example. The rules keep rising. Right now, to get financing on an older home is almost impossible because they're going to sell that paper. You know who's buying homes that won't qualify for a modern conventional loan? Investors. They turn them into rental properties.
Yep. Oh, companies are doing it left and right. Yes, they're doing it all over.
So what does that do to the little guy? Well, now you don't have market forces that will affect, and I saw this in the rental industry in some large towns. They'll leave a building vacant and still keep the price on. If you've got 5 buildings in a complex and you've only rented 1 or 2, one of them will be an anchor store who get it for nothing to draw people in. And then maybe you've got 1 or 2 local businesses. They're going to pay full rate. And rather than them bring the prices down to bring more renters in or more leasers in, they'll keep them down to keep prices up. They're doing the same thing with housing right now. When you think about it, if you can't get financing for a house, like I live in an old house in the country, it's a very historic home. The first appraiser I got into this house said, "Oh, no, this house can't be financed. It needs renovation." And of course, it's an old house. And I said, "Look, let me pay a more experienced appraiser and out of my pocket. And you pick them. I won't pick them. Just find me somebody who didn't just come out of appraisal school, who understands older homes." And they did. And the guy's like, "Oh, yeah, this is wonderful. I love the feng shui of your home. It's not blah, blah, blah." He got it. He understood it. So the system is gamed against the little guy. So is it a conspiracy? No. But collectively, it's frog in a pot. And every time you get a little more of a law, a little more of a regulation, it makes it a little harder for people that are outside of the box.
Right.
It's comply or die. And right now, going against people that they call MAGA extremists, and I know a lot of these people, and like when I went to Mar-a-Lago, what struck me? I'm in the room with a lot of really wealthy people. And they're all kind and humble and patriotic. They love America. I love this country. This is the theme. They love it. They love it. They're like, well, they're this and they're that, and the people that go to college and work for the government, or go to college or spending inherited money down the line, and actually it's their little world and that's it. I didn't see any of that at Mar-a-Lago. I see a lot of it in the Democrat Party.
Yeah,
it's kind of like me, myself, and I. And
I hate to wrap it up, but we are at our
Yeah.
limit on time. Unfortunately, I didn't get you the whole time, but I definitely want to get you back on, Paul, because you just bring some of this, and there's so much insight you have in this. But so let's definitely plan on getting you back on. But yeah,
well, thank you.
We've hit the cap. But yeah, hey, thank you so much, man. Good to have you on. The AV equipment looks great. Make sure you tell all of our mutual friends down there. I give them my best and say hi. And
yeah, I was at Cameron's just a couple days ago. He was broadcasting to Israel, and I think on Fox on Israel, and also broadcasting in the DC affiliate. So he's in the loop.
Yeah, I saw him last night on Fox at Night. So
yeah,
sure thing. All right, buddy. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody,
brother,
for joining us here on Stu and the Nunn. Tune in next Thursday. Keep an eye on all of our socials. Keep liking us, sharing it, and thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Motley Patriot, for your night, buddy.
Thank you, brother. Y'all have a good one. God bless America.